Hello everyone, it is time for this week's live stream and we're going to be taking some of your questions and we're going to be addressing those today. But I wanted to catch you up on what has been going on with the reef tank for the last 2 weeks, because last weekend was our club's mini frag swap, and then today was the Coral Farmers Market that I decided to opt out of. I just didn't want to cram one more thing into my day and still be here for the live stream. I just didn't think it was plausible, so instead I took my time, got things set up. I didn't even do the intro video because it doesn't match what I'm actually setting up these days. So I will make a new intro video to show what the craziness is that is right here, right now. But I just wanted to make sure that you can hear me, first of all. Amar is the first one here. There's Andrea. Triggerfish is here. I'm wearing a new microphone. It looks clunky because I haven't received the lavalier mic that plugs into it, but it uses a magnet to hold on. So, does it sound okay? Did everything I say for the last minute just vanish? What's going on? There's Mina. Hey, Larry. And Caleb is here as well. So I just need someone to say they can hear this. Oh, I see some thumbs up. Maybe that's a good sign. I don't know. I need more information. Also, if it's too low, tell me that as well. And I can make a slight adjustment in the software. Take a sip of coffee. And I didn't even clean the glass for you guys. Horrible, horrible hobbyist. Excuse me, Spock. Actually, my glass needs a deep cleaning with a razor blade because there's a lot of stuff on there that the regular cleaning magnet is not erasing. It's the more rigid stuff. Okay, good. Someone said they can hear me. That's nice. So let me start with that. I got this new thing. It's from DJI. It's a microphone kit. You have your receiver here. There's a microphone here. There's a second microphone for interviews. And then there's the little connectors. And so one connector is connected to the receiver in the back of my Mac. This other one would connect into my phone for interviews when I'm actually filming out in the field. And the case itself charges the microphones and receiver all at once with a battery inside. And these microphones have like a 15-hour recording lifespan. And, which I haven't figured out, I haven't figured out if you can, how to make it record what I'm talking about in case for some reason it doesn't transmit. It'll save a copy inside the microphone itself, which I can then download or offload or something. Like if I was editing a video and I needed to get that content that was missing for some weird reason because of interference, I can get another copy of it, is the idea. So I ordered that, and it came in this week, and then I ordered some lavalier mics to plug in because the one I have is super old, and it had kind of a hiss. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. So I thought we'll just try today just to see what this sounds like. And so far, no one's complaining. That's a good sign. I'm glad to hear that. Let's see. A lot has happened in the last 13, 14 days since our last live stream. I drove out to Fritz, and you'll be seeing a video about that soon. So that's something to look forward to. It's not a full tour of the place, even though that's exactly what I wanted to do. But instead, I'm doing something different. So you'll see that. It'll come out later this week, in the next few days coming up. And I just signed a contract virtually with a company to replace the carpet in this house. The carpet in the living room and hallway, which is what your camera is standing on right now, has been here for 9 years. And all the bedrooms, I think the carpet's like 20 years old, easily. I'm assuming in the early 2000s I replaced it. But at the time when they came to replace this carpet, because the 280 had leaked and the carpet got ruined, and I just said, put new carpet. And they said, what about the bedrooms? Like, no, I'm not moving all that crap. There's no way. And so they said, okay. And so they did the living room and the hallway, and it looks beautiful. I mean, or it did, especially day one. But the bedrooms and the hallway are different colors, sort of like when you see the hallway in a hotel and then the rooms have their own color of carpet. That's been my house for a long time. So I'm looking forward to getting every inch of it replaced with new. And before anyone says, oh, don't get carpet, I'm a huge, huge carpet fan. You just don't even know. I stripped and waxed floors for 20 years, and I hate mopping. I hate sweeping. I love vacuuming. It's so much easier. And for me, a nice thick carpet that I can sink into with my bare feet and it feels spongy under my feet is perfect. I ordered probably the most expensive choice. I mean, that's what she told me. She goes, you picked the most expensive one. I don't even know what other ones exist, but I was like, that's the one I want. And it's, like this tall. And then I get super thick padding that's actually waterproof. So if there was another flood, the water sits on top of the pad instead of soaking in because there's like a rubber layer. And then they tape all the seams. So in theory, you don't have to replace padding if there's a damaged situation. They just peel back the carpet. Probably, I don't know what they do, but pointless. You don't have to redo everything from scratch. And that's what we did here in the living room before. And it lasted 9 years without a flaw, even with an aquarium here and here. So I made my 50% deposit. I got to do the other half when they show up in like 10 days. And everything I own has to be out of the way. So I'm not looking forward to that, but I've already made a phone call to my son. And I might also go ahead and text his wife and say, I need you both here on the day before to help just move everything outside. The people will actually move all the furniture, but it's all the little stuff. And that includes all the little stuff in the furniture. So like bookcases, they'll move, but if there's books in the bookcase, I got to move that. And I'm not looking forward to it. And at the same time, it's a great time to purge. So that's a big deal to me. I know it doesn't have anything to do with this reefing channel other than my sense of well-being. And if I'm happy, that makes this a better show. So I apologize to those of you that are thinking, why am I listening to this BS? 2 nights ago, I got a phone call from Frank just before closing time. And he said, what are you doing? Can you run down to the shop? I have some people here that want to meet you. And I said, okay, so I just dropped everything, drove down there. And and there was like 7 guys in there. And, didn't recognize one face, right? But they all knew me. And so I got to meet them all. And each one was from a different state, which was interesting. And they had come to Texas as a group from their different destinations. They all are in the aquarium industry. They all have stores or maintenance companies or something along those lines. And what they do is every year they meet somewhere and then they travel that area for a few days or a week. They, in this case, they came here to Texas. They rented a house with a 6-bedroom house. I guess there's 6 guys. And they had a van that had a sticker on the side of the door that it said something like Reef Team or something on it. Let me see what it said. I'd show it to you, but I cannot. Let's see. They were called Professional Fish Guy Peer Group. So we hung out there at Frank's, and we were talking for a little bit and talking about business stuff and how to survive in this this economy. And they always ask this. The world always asks the same thing. Where do you see things happening in 5 years? And I'm terrible at predicting that, but I am good at dealing with today. And so we talked about my thoughts. Frank sat there and listened. Frank chimed in from time to time. And then I said, do you guys want to see my reef, see the studio, see Minion? And they're like, yes. And they thought it was going to be super far. And I'm literally within walking distance of Frank's tanks. So they followed me over here, which took a minute. And then they crowded the room, took some pictures of the tank, oohed and awed over everything. And then, we went into the studio. And then after they saw that, then they went into the area where Minion is and saw the CNC machine. And then we all went to dinner. And we had so much fun. I mean, we went to Saltgrass Steakhouse. And, my favorite there is steak and shrimp. And I talked them into it. We had alcohol. We had a great time. A lot of fun. And it was completely impromptu, unplanned. Fortunately, I didn't have like something really pressing that I had to do to where I couldn't join in. Instead, I was able to just take the evening and enjoy it for once. And actually, that was something Frank never does either. He always has something to do. And he said, oh my God, that was so much fun. And it was so nice to just take a break from everything and just hang out. And he said, he told me, I was enjoying watching you have conversations with all these guys. And I kind of felt the same way about him, because I feel like he's always running, always running, always running. I guess we both have that in common. About my business, I sell things for the aquarium, mostly, exclusively dry goods. Some things are already packaged, from different companies like Neptune, Ecotech, AI, Two Little Fishies, Benepets, Blue Life USA. I mean, it's quite a list. There's about 300 products on my website on midlivsreef.com. And if you guys are so inclined to buy things from me, that helps me continue to pay the bills. This is my only job, not YouTube, but my only job is Me Loves Reef. And it became my only job as of 2009. So this is year 14. And became a corporation in 2016. And I became an employee, which just made taxes so much easier for me. That's about it. And yeah, I make things out of acrylic for customers, and I sell them aquarium controllers and pumps and additives and filter socks and you know, you name it. You know, it's a lot of stuff, just no live goods. And I don't ever see myself doing live goods. I just don't have the room, the space, the desire, the passion for that. I'm much happier shipping things that are you know, in a box. I can go for a few days and not risk them dying. So that's kind of what was going on a couple days ago. Some of you, or some of my friends at least, you know, I don't know if you're on here or not, are telling me they're still getting 6 and 8 inches of snow. And over here, it was 81. I've got the AC going. My roses are blooming. My lawn is coming back to life after being dormant for a couple of months. And it's nice out. I mean, I've been hanging out with Jack by the fire pit and enjoying some fire at night, and that has been going on. So let's get into the ICP stuff. I want to show you guys my latest results. I'm going to put it on the screen for you, and we will discuss. So let me pull this up. I use Reef Labs as my ICP testing company. They're based out of Florida. I'm very happy with their work. I'm going to need to shrink this window, I think, so that you guys can see what you're supposed to see. This is a challenge. I got to show you something, and it has to show up on your window, and yet somehow it has to fit on my screen too. That's really hard. So we are going to change this to, see what happens here. Hey, we got the right thing. So, oh, look, I can zoom in a little bit. So this is Reef Labs, and right now, I'm sorry, here's my latest results right here. Oh, I'm clicking in your window, not my window. Let me move this. Here are the results. I just did an ICP test a week ago, and I did another one 2 days ago. So my latest one here, this is the ability to share it. Actually, I'll do that. I'll stick it here as a copy, and we'll put it in the chat for you guys. And that way, some of you guys want to click on it, you can, if you want to peruse it. And you'll notice here in the important warnings, it's showing what is lacking and what the recommendation is to fix it. So I'm going to stay off camera here and just show you guys the dashboard. There's no reason for me to be there. First thing is iron. I'm completely out of iron. I've been out of iron for months, and I ordered more. So it's here, and I'm actually going to, I started dosing it last night. Potassium, I was almost out of Elementals K, and that's from Fauna Marin. I got a new bottle of potassium yesterday, and I did the math, and I'm going to use 3/4 of the bottle to get my potassium up to 400. Lithium, don't care about, and they're saying it's deficient, which is kind of funny, and they recommend a water change to get it back up, which I think is kind of, well, just funny. Manganese has always been not detected, and I've got lots of manganese on hand. I'm going to try dosing it in abundance and see if I can make it show up on here. I mean, you can see they're recommending that it's supposed to be 0.0001 to 0.002. So we're talking about, what is that, 1,000th of a milliliter? Just a little bit needs to show up, and it never shows up. Selenium was not detected, and it actually affects nutrient I can't even say the words. Poor nutrient uptake and tissue problems with corals. So obviously I want to take care of my selenium. And then vanadium I've been dosing for the last couple of weeks, and it's just down a little bit. I need to bring it up a little higher. So I will just keep doing that. And then the next section, it shows general observations, kind of a summation right there. It shows that there was 9 days since the last test. There was 2 less elements that had warnings, so I'm doing things the right direction. There's an elevated element. There's a deficient, there's 2 less deficient elements. And then they got these ratios here, which I think are kind of interesting. So your magnesium to calcium ratio, typically you want your magnesium to be 3 times your calcium. So in my case, they did the math, and they said my sample came in at 3.5. The average range, or optimal range, will be 2.9 to 3.1. And they recommend a water change. Well, I just did a 100-gallon water change last week. That's 25% of my reef, basically. And I don't plan to do another water change immediately. Matter of fact, I need to make more water first. But I'm very close. I'm a little bit high on magnesium, so I would need to bring up my calcium level higher to get the right ratio. Then my chloride to sodium ratio, this is just a number. I don't really understand it, so there's nothing I can do about it. And then chloride to sulfate ratio, again, this is a number that they show me, but I don't really have a way to fix it, so I'm just aware of it. And then it shows my salinity of the water, and one of my goals has been to get to 35 ppt. I tend to be 34, so it was really nice to see I came in at 34.8. I'm very close to where I need to be. And phosphates was only measuring 0.2, which makes me happy. It was 0.7 a week ago. And then the rest of this graph here, this is the macro elements. And as we scroll through it, I wish I could get rid of this blue bar. It's eating up some of the space. The macro elements are going to be things that are big, like calcium. And as you click on these, you can unfold them and you can see what they do, and you can see how much of a change there's been since the last test. So my calcium level is measuring at 404, and they recommend 380 to 480. So I'm right there, but I could go a little higher. And I'm actually dosing some liquid calcium to my system in addition to my calcium reactor to kind of bring this number up, because for some reason my tank continues to struggle maintaining calcium. Magnesium is measuring at 1422, and there's no problem there. Strontium is measuring at 7.97, which is basically 8.0, and 8.0 is actually a good range. They say optimal is between 7 and 10, and my tank tends to always be 8. So I'm not worried about that. My sulfur's up a little bit, and if you're trying to say, well, what should it be? You just unfold it, and they say it should be between 850 and 960, and I'm at 980. And I'm going to attribute the sulfur being my algae turf scrubber has been looking kind of snotty for weeks, and it's finally now starting to look like green hair algae again. And I think there's just some sulfuric stuff happening on there possibly. Then you've got your minor and trace elements. So this is the stuff I've been dosing daily, trying to, certain ones I've been dosing daily to get them back on track. And anything green is good. Iodine is measuring good. I had put in 3 different vials of Perdibio over a 10-day period and got that back up where it belongs, and that was the IOD+. As I mentioned before, my manganese is not detected, so I'm going to be dosing that, and I bought plenty. Iron I started yesterday, so that on my next test it should come up. Molybdenum is actually elevated a little bit. It's yellow, and so I won't dose any of that. Phosphorus and rubidium I'm not going to worry about because that's just whatever it is, and water changes will resolve it. Vanadium is a little bit low. Selenium is a little bit low, so those are 2 I'm actually adding. What on here did I ignore that I didn't talk about? Cobalt is actually in the green for once. I've been dosing cobalt a lot, and I'm finally at 0.001. And they say you can be all the way up to 0.003. So that's a good number. And then down here under contaminants, it's usually always been all green. Somehow gallium appeared. I don't even know what it is, and it doesn't say what it does, but it appeared on their test. And it might be an aberration, and it could be it won't appear again on the next one, because I don't think I've ever seen gallium in my tank. Like I said, I don't even know what it is. And by the way, they added a couple of new ones in here that weren't on the list before, because I'm always comparing and contrasting. And I was like, I don't remember titanium being on here. And there was another one that caught my eye that I was like, that's new. Silver. Yeah, silver wasn't on the list before. Now it is. So anyway, I had none. So most of this is all not detected. So there's no contaminants or toxins in my reefs. Nothing to worry about there. And that is the end of the list. That's the bottom of the page. So this is the test I do. And I really like what they've done with the website. When I first started using them last year, the website didn't have as much information as it does now. And I like that they also compute your phosphate level, because a lot of times you won't get that number from an ICP test. And so you're just relying on your test kits. And it's just nice to have someone else do some results so you can compare and see how your kits are doing. Or if you're using the Trident, or you're using the Reef Bot, or you're using Mastertronic, or one of those other Alcatronic, and you're trying to see how these numbers are coming back, well, having an ICP test to just double check your numbers is nice. But you have to know what the numbers were the day you shipped it. You can't just, especially if you're only doing it once every 3 months. I'm doing it weekly because I'm trying to do something again. I've always got something up my sleeve. But basically, my reef is doing fine. There's no like real crazy concerns. Obviously, there's some work I need to do in there, like any reef tank, but mainly I need to get rid of vermitids. And I've got some of these little tiny nano bubble tip anemones that have gotten into my reef, and I need to pluck them all out and get them out of there forever. And just have the sea bait and the rose. That's okay. I don't mind those two, but all that other stuff that's in there, stinging stuff, I want them gone because they're hurting my SPS. Out of all my reef, the only coral that's been struggling, and it's almost completely, it looks like it's almost completely gone, is this one right here. That was a bubblegum digitata, and I knew something was off in my elements because it looked so bad. Because when all my elements were bursting, you know, out the seams and being perfect, that coral was glowing. It was so pretty. I mean, the fact that parts were turning white and just kind of changing, I was starting to think a fish was nibbling on it. But clearly that's not what's happening. So 99.9% of my reef is great. And there's just a couple spots that are not doing so well right now, and I would just like to correct them. And I'm going to do it through trying to dial in those parameters, and especially those elements. It's just something I do. I mean, I've been doing this since '97, and so I have to do something to be interesting, you know, to keep it interesting for myself, right? And I like this one, you know, and it's not crazy expensive. So let me show you what I'm using they're all gone. Here's a couple little bottles. So this one right here is molybdenum, and this is from Reef Blueprint. I get them from ACI Aquaculture. And then this is cobalt. This is the bottle that's going to last me the rest of my life, because I use 4 drops of this in 100 milliliters of water, and that lasts me 10 days. 4 drops! I don't know how many drops are in here, but I guarantee you this is like a 20-year supply of cobalt. And I have a bunch more. But the nice thing about these bottles is they're not expensive. A lot of times when you're looking at these kind of different companies that do these bottles, it's like 80, 80, 80, 80. Like, oh my God. And these all are less than 20 each. So, and they're very concentrated. So I've been using these for the last, since last year. And it's super easy to dose. I've kind of gone into it in the past. Basically, you can just count the drops, or you can count the milliliters and just put them in your tank. I don't like to just dump in chemical, like straight in the tank. So for example, if I was putting in molybdenum, I would then hold it over here, because this is a nozzle of water shooting, and I'll go drip, 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 and I would count 9 drops or 18 drops, whatever I'm going to use. It's 1 drop per 26.6 gallons. And so when you put this in there, you want to, you know, go in gradually and not just have pure concentrated just somehow land on a coral or smack a fish in the face, right? If you want, you could take a cup, like a solo cup, fill it up with RO water, put your drops into that cup, and then pour it into the overflow box to have it go down the drain, go through the system, and pump back up in the system, and you will have your trace elements back in the water. So that's one way. Now, Chris Meckley at ACI recommended to me, and I still haven't done it because I'm the king of procrastinating. He says, get a 1-gallon jug, or really get a gallon. I actually have it. A 1.5 gallon jug, like the big giant white vinegar bottles. Fill it up with 1 gallon of water, and then add all of your trace elements into that bottle, and then take a single dosing pump, hook it up, and tell it to dose all your trace elements during the daytime when the corals are soaking it up. And of course, I do none of those things. I put my trace elements in at night as the corals are going to sleep, and but yet my reef continues to live. So would it be even more fantastic? Probably if I'd listened to Chris. Also, Chris wants me to do kalkwasser, and I bought a box of it because he talked me into it, and I have yet to crack open the package because, I don't know. We'll see. If I start using it one day, it'll be very interesting. But for now, I'm not using it yet. The idea of Reef Blueprint was to be able to get really concentrated chemical for a low cost. And so it was very appealing to me. I mean, everything costs money. Yes, I'm in the industry, so I can get things at wholesale cost or whatever, but the bottom line is I still got to pay for it. Nothing's free. Well, almost nothing. Sometimes I get things free, but most of the times I'm buying stuff. And so I like to save money too, just like anyone else. And so I thought that's a great deal, and I'm happy with it. And I like the way it's going. And I use UPS to ship my water samples in because the post office is just too darn slow for me. And I am For a procrastinator, how am I so impatient? That's really funny. Years ago, long time, back when I was married, I was sitting at a table and someone said to me, Mark, you are the most impatient person I've ever met. And I just yelled out to my wife, is it true that I'm impatient? Hey! And everyone burst out laughing because didn't even give her a second to answer the question. It was so great. But I think I'm better. I think I'm not as impatient. I mean, when my tank leaked, I wasn't impatient. I waited forever for my new tank, you know? I mean, so maybe I've gotten better. All right, so we talked about Reef Labs. We talked about ICP. There's lots of different companies out there. I just really like Reef Labs, okay? I mean, you can use whoever you want. And I'm not dissing on anyone. So, I mean, you've got choices like Triton. I think Fauna Marin is doing it. ATI is one doing it. Saltwater ICPanalysis.com exists in Denver. Reef Labs is what I'm using. So, I mean, these are some choices. I'm using Reef Labs. I'm also selling the Reef Labs test kits now. So, or, you know, the kit that you send your samples in. I just got them in when I got my supplies in, and those will be on the website later today. So if you would like to grab a kit, you can. They're either 40 or 45 bucks. I think they're 40. And you just mail those in, and then you get a little notification saying your information's ready. And the only thing they don't measure is nitrate. But that's okay, because we know I have crazy high nitrate. Let's talk about that. I picked up this nice big bottle of Fritz Design 460. So all I want to do is pour the whole thing in my tank and just solve my nitrate problem. That's what I want to do. Maybe I am a little impatient. I don't know. It's just, they've been up for so long that I want them down. I measured my nitrate again. So I've already used it once. By the way, can you guys see that? You see that? That's one of those little anemones I want out of my tank. It's actually holding onto the side of a Palithoa. It's holding onto the tube of a zoanthid. That's crazy. All right. So anyway, this right here is a aquarium cleaner and sludge remover. Not that I am aware of any sludge in my system, but you know, we don't care what it's called. All I care about is if it works. And if it really works, I'm going to sell the crap out of this to you people that have nitrate problems, because I've been looking for a solution for nitrate for a long time. I've had a lot of people say, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Why don't you try this? And I have. I've tried lots of different things. And we know that the nitrate R from Brightwell works, but I wanted to try this. So I'm going to try this. So I did a dose. You put in, my tank needed 90 milliliters. So whatever the math was to get to that point, I put in 90 milliliters in the reef, and you turn off the skimmer for 2 days, and then you turn the skimmer back on. And so I did just that. And it just happened to coincidentally be when I was also doing my big water change, and I changed 100 gallons. And when I got it going again, I was excited. I checked nitrates, and they hadn't budged. So I waited a week, and I put it in again yesterday, and the skimmer's off again for 2 days, and then I'll turn it on again. I was trying to find out how frequently I can do this, because the bottle recommends that you do it every 2 weeks, and I'm going to do it every week right now. Like I said, I just want to pour it all in today and just be done. But I'm going to just follow the guidelines and go smooth, go easy. Don't go crazy. It says for saltwater, and it's reef safe, so you don't have to worry about your livestock being at risk. And I'm hoping that it makes a difference. We'll see. We'll see. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I always have hope. Because if there's a product that works, I can talk about it for the rest of my life. Like I do Phosphate RX. I love that stuff. I've been talking about it forever. And I recommended it forever. ChemiClean or Red Cyano RX. When you have cyanobacteria in your tank, I tell you, go ahead and use ChemiClean or Red Cyano RX. And I never, ever don't say use it. I actually tell people, do use it. And people are always like, I don't know, it's a chemical, I'm worried. I'm like, I'm not. Just put it in your tank, solve the problem. 5 days from now, you have a pretty tank again. Why wait? So I would just recommend those products on a regular basis. So if this can be one of those ones I can recommend, that would be awesome. And the reason I got such a huge bottle of it is because I have a big system, and I feel like I'll be using a lot of it to get this under control, rather than buying a lot of little bottles. All right, so I want to tell you something that I did wrong, because we all learn from our mistakes. I mentioned earlier on Instagram and Facebook that I use some kind of reminder timer to help me not forget things. And I do. And I did. But when I did my water change last Sunday, I accidentally did something I was completely oblivious to. I had pumped out all the water out of the skimmer section. I'd pumped out all the water out of the return zone. I had pumped some water out of the reef. All went down the driveway. I put in new salt water. Everything got back up to the right level, and I was good to go. Didn't have any concerns at all. Everything was fine. The next day, someone was posting on Facebook about their alkalinity and their graph and stuff, and I was like, and so I opened up my Apex Fusion panel to see my alkalinity, and mine had been dropping for the last 24 hours. And I thought, well, that's strange, because the water change had the right alkalinity, so that wouldn't affect it. The calcium reactor is running, so that should be fine. So I got it from my desk. I walked behind the tank, and I looked down at the calcium reactor, and there's no liquid coming out of the reactor, which is very important. Liquid should always be coming out. And so the other end of the equation of the calcium reactor is a little thing I had built from VCA that is a pre-filter, so I get no more bristleworms or detritus in the tube that goes in that puts water into the reactor. And that little thing was floating on the surface like a cork because it was full of air. And because it was full of air, no water was going into the pump that could then feed the calcium reactor. I was so mad at myself. I was like, argh! So I submerged it. That didn't solve it. I'm futzing around with the Versa pump. That didn't solve it. I put a new tube on the Versa pump, and it started moving water again. So, okay, we're good. And I'm looking at the calcium reactor, and I said, oh, it's going to need some time to completely purge out the air that's inside the reactor from the lack of water going in. So I turned off the circulation pump on there with the intention of turning back on. And a day later, I look at my graph again, and my alkalinity is even lower. And I was like, what is the deal? I fixed everything yesterday. And I thought, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to measure the alkalinity of the effluent coming out of the calcium reactor, because that number should be between 19 and 35. And when I did my test, it came out 8. I was like, well, no wonder my tank is dropping. Everything's growing. My tank's already at 8 point something, 9, 8.1, 9.5, somewhere in that range, right? And if you're coming in at the same level as a tank, it'll never catch up. It'll never maintain. So I thought, why is my calcium reactor so low? And that's when I realized I didn't turn on that circulation pump again to mix in the CO2 with the media to do its job. So I turned it on. If I'd used a timer or if I'd used a reminder, I wouldn't have forgotten. But this was such a one-off thing. Like I said, I made a mistake. So I went ahead and I turned it back on. I waited 20 minutes. I measured the effluent again, and it came out at 26 DKH, which is perfect. And since then, my alkalinity has gone from like 7.9 all the way up to 9.5 where it belongs. And now it's going to hover in that area, and the Trident controls it. So solved all the problems. But, a couple of mistakes. First, I let that thing bob to the surface instead of making sure it was submerged. Second, I had to remember to turn the circulation pump back on the calcium reactor. And I did a blog about this. And I know I blog about the calcium reactor quite a bit. And I even asked in the first sentence in that article, I was like, I talk about this reactor pretty often because it is almost the heart of the reef. Alkalinity is key as far as I'm concerned. And I said, to the audience, to the reader, would I be talking as much about two-part dosing if that was my method, I can't imagine doing two-part and not having something to write about it. Like the tubes clogged up, or the solution was mixed up, or I ran out of solution, or somebody told me this. So I think there will always be something to discuss when it comes to reef keeping. And the trick is to learn from your mistakes, not repeat them. So that way your reef will continue to live healthily and thrive and do well. I got a text a week ago from a local club member whose tank I had built a sump for and a refugium and a monster triple dosing container. I had made it 12 years ago. And I remember I drove out there with all this stuff, and it was under a huge aquarium, like a 550 or something, just really big. And we put the sump under there, and then the refugium was going to connect with a couple of uniseals with a PVC pipe. It was just going to be better than bulkheads was the goal. And the person that owned it, he was reminding me that it took us like 3 hours to get that pipe to go through the uniseal. It just literally went, and I used all the Astroglide in the world and a hammer, and I was pounding on the darn thing, and it would not go together for about 3 hours. And finally, it happened. It had to happen. It was just a matter of, oh my God, will we ever get this? And there has to be a better tool that can just like press something through without affecting the acrylic walls of the container. You know, some kind of a super C clamp that I can just kind of, that would have been awesome. But I didn't have that at the time. Anyway, it's been 12 years, and he writes me, he says, hey, Mark, my tank's got some issues there, and he showed me a picture, and there's like all this salt creep. I mean, just so much salt creep. I just want to run inside with a garden hose and rinse down the side of the aquarium. It's so bad. And I said, when did this start? And he says, about 2 years ago. I was like, oh, okay. So it's been running for 10 years, you know, when this started. Now it's 12 years. And he's like, I want to have you come out and help me do some clean up the plumbing, solve the problem with these leaks, and also clean up all the wire management, because he doesn't want to fire, just like we don't. So I was just like, yeah, sure, I can do that. So that's coming up soon. I think I'll be filming some of that so you guys can see it. But I posted a picture to the moderators, and one of the moderators said, that looks like your plumbing, Mark. And I was looking, I was like, really? I mean, does plumbing look like any certain person? And I guess it does. I mean, I did the work 12 years ago. I guess I have a certain style. And it just kind of made me laugh that he said, yeah, that looks like something you've done in the past. I'm like, man, I don't know how you saw that. But I'm going to go in there. We're going to resolve the situation. We're going to support the plumbing so that the leaks never happen again. Because what he's got is the internal overflow box, external overflow box with probably a bulkhead holding it together, is my guess. And after all these years, it's given way. And I mean, odds are, you could probably go up there and just tighten the nut and be done, but it's 12 years old. So it's much smarter to just remove that bulkhead, put a new one in there with a new gasket, tighten it down, solve the problem once and for all, and know it's good for another decade, right? So that has been part of my plan. And then I'm probably going to put some kind of 2x4 uprights under the PVC pipe that just go from the floor straight up, just so that the weight of the external overflow box cannot pull down on the tank. It'll just be supported because the weight of all the pipes and all the water running through it for so long, apparently it's causing some kind of an issue. So that will be resolved. All the wire management will be resolved. But his triple dosing container, I'm very curious to see if he's still using it or if he went back to a calcium reactor. Because when I made this container, it had to hold 5 gallons of each solution. And so, I mean, I was like, man, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to mix it up. I'll pour it in. It's going to be good for like months. And so I will be seeing how that looks. And it'll be nice to kind of see stuff that I built so long ago and see what it looks like. I'm used to, you know, look at my own products that are 7, 8, 9 years old, and they're still fine. This one's 12. So I'd like to see what it looks like. And I'll probably have to do a little bit of cleaning. I see someone, Kyle's like, caulk, do the caulk washer. I don't know. Maybe someday. I also want to kind of delve into the whole local club thing again with you guys, because I feel like clubs are so important, just like local fish stores are so important. And I know we live in a world of social media, and we live in a world of buying things online. I mean, I'm an online selling company. You would think I would be promoting online sales only, and you don't need an LFS, but you totally need a local fish store. You need the ability to go in there and hang out and see the animals. Bring your kids with you, let them see the animals, you know, because those children could grow up to be aquarists as well. And having fish stores that are open for business is good for all of us. And if they all go away, that's bad. And I've got some friends that live in the middle of nowhere that have no fish store, and they're just so unhappy. You know, they're super jealous they don't have what we have. And by we, I mean myself, DFW Mass, my local club. We probably have about 20 fish stores in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so we, all of us hobbyists, and there's about 600 of our members, we can go to these stores and buy things. Or yes, you can buy online from Milo's Reef. You can go to BRS, you can go to saltwateraquarium.com, you can go to Champion Lighting, you know, Amazon, whatever. There's lots of choices out there. But in the end, being able to go into a fish store and support them and keep their doors open should be part of your hobby. And I know that that's going to be a debatable topic, because some people don't like their fish store. They don't like the owner. They don't like the way they're being treated. They don't like what they're being charged. But there are certain things you can buy from the local fish store to keep their doors open, and that would be test kits, fish food, additives. I mean, you can do those things. You can do that. And of course, being able to buy livestock and being able to say, I would like such and such fish, and they will order it for you and bring it in is nice. And you know, if you wanted to buy live rock, you could dig through their bin and find a piece you liked. I mean, there's some benefits to being in there, but just being in the room, in the building with like-minded people for hours at a time, if you stay that long, you can really pick up a lot through the conversations. You can meet new friends. You can meet new club members, potential club members. If you don't have a club, it's really good. And my own club does a local fish store bus tour once a year. And we rent a bus. We fill it up with about 40 people or so, maybe 50. I remember a few years ago, it was 80 of us. So we had 2 buses for one day. And then 2 buses would pull up to a fish store and 80 people would walk into the door. Now imagine how the store can operate with 80 customers for the next hour. It's crazy, but somehow they made it work. And then we would go to these stores and we would buy things while we're there. And then we'd put all our stuff in coolers in the belly of the bus. We'd get back on the bus and we would eat snacks and we would drink and we would tell stories and we'd do raffles. And then we'd get to the next store and we would do it all over again. And this is actually our most popular event. More popular than Frag Swaps is the fish store bus tour. And the reason it's so fun is because you're helping the local economy. You're also bringing in a huge crowd of people, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But let me tell you some of the dynamics of what happens so we know how the money's working. And I think it's actually really intelligent the way we've come up with this. And I don't get all the credit. You know, I have certain things I've recommended in the past, but either Drew or Lisa or somebody else came up with some of these thoughts, and they're brilliant. So let me explain the way this works. 35 people walk off the bus. They walk into the fish store. They all buy what they want to buy, or they buy nothing. It's totally up to them. Then, when they get back on the bus, if they bought anything, they show the receipt to the person that's on the board of directors. And I think for like every $25 you spend, you get a raffle ticket. So if you bought 50 bucks worth of stuff, you got 2 tickets, you go to your seat in the back of the bus. And these tickets are being given out matching the receipts, right? And then while we're driving, there's a raffle, and the raffle includes a $50 gift card for the next store we're going to. So you're literally 1 in 35 chance of winning a $50 gift card to use in the store you're about to walk into in case you wanted to get a fish or an invertebrate or, I don't know, test kits. And so you can sit there and it's saving you money. Now the club buys the gift card from each store. So the club is spending club funds to create the gift cards, right? And then at the end of the day, all the gift cards have been dispersed. All the people have, you know, shown us their receipts all day long. Everyone's had lunch. They've had a good time. But at the end, we can see how many tickets we gave away, and we can find out how much money was spent that day with the local fish store bus tour. And there's been years where we spent $7,000 in one afternoon, or $9,000. And we knew we put $9,000 into the local economy because we could count the tickets. It wasn't just guessing or estimating. We literally knew. And I just love that we know that information because it kind of makes me feel good that as a club, we're supporting our local stores. Now, the downside of the bus tour is that you're in a bus all day long. I mean, it's from like 10 to 5 or something like that. It's a long day. But you're not driving. So you can change seats. You can laugh. You can tell stories. You can get to know each other. You can make new friends. You can discuss problems with your aquarium. And you're on the road at 80 miles an hour doing it, which is kind of fun, right? And then the other downside is that some of the other stores feel left out and they get upset. And they say, how come you won't come to us? Well, that comes down to which stores agreed to the date we picked and where they're located on the map. Because I remember one year, oh my God, we drove so far. I mean, it felt like it was an hour and a half to one store. And then it felt like another 55 minutes to the next store. I was like, where are these stores? Where? Because I would much rather, you know, ideally 15 minutes, 20 minutes to the next store, right? So it's just like, you know, a few minutes and then hop off. But the Dallas-Fort Worth area is so big, it takes a long time. So you pick a few stores kind of near each other and also end up back where your parked car is. But that tour has been very popular. So if you're in a club and you're thinking we want to do something and you have questions, feel free to ask me about it, and I'll be happy to give you as much insight as possible so you can be successful as well and have a lot of fun. All right, I don't know how much the microphone picks up the dogs. You have to tell me. Because she is barking. Let me see. How are we doing on time? All right. let's go into some of your questions. In case you aren't aware, you're supposed to do @MeLovesReef. That helps me a lot in finding the questions. What? Oh, I guess I just got a package. Thank you. Okay, thanks. Shh, shh. Let's go check. Okay. Got a package. Okay, excuse me. Stay inside. What did we get? Ha ha! We got my microphone. Who's ready to test? Should we try this out right now? So, I asked my friends on Facebook, what kind of microphone should I get for my DJI wireless mic? And they told me to get the Shure microphone. So I ordered 2 of them. Here's a catalog. All right, Jackie, it's not for me. I mean, it's not for you, it's for me. So let's open one up. We're going to plug it in, and you can tell me if it's horrible or not. What else do we have? Unboxing. It's got a little tiny bag. Here is our little tiny microphone. It is lovely. Look at that. Little tiny guy. Jack's like, is that a snack? It's not. And I put that stuff on your seat, Jackie. I'm sorry. So we're going to plug this in, and you're going to tell me if it sounds good or if there's a hiss. I'm really hoping it's clean. So let me remove this. Hopefully I don't turn it off in the process here. Okay, still got a light. Crinkling sound, sorry guys. Put this on here. That's nice. See, I'm not a big fan of these giant clips you have to wear on your shirt. I don't like that part. I'm gonna stick it on like this for right now. Okay. So now we're using the lav mic, and you guys get to tell me if it sounds better, the same, worse. Now I have to wait 20 seconds. I've got my cute little fuzzy here that I can put on here, even though there's no wind in here. So, what's it seem like? Good, bad, worse? The mic picks up Jack well. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I would love to be able to wear a microphone like this outside and hang out by the fire pit and do a live stream one day, but I'm so worried you're going to pick up all the sounds of the ambulances that go by and the trucks that go by. I mean, there's between me and the street is one more house with a yard, but it is what it is, you know? So what does it sound like? Somebody give me some, I need answers, people. Slightly better. I'm a tad quiet. Okay, let me crank it up a little bit. Jackie. All right, so plus the mic's in a new orientation too. Like if it was like right in front of my face, it'd probably be better, but it's not there. And I'm not talking as loud probably as well. So we shall see. You want to go outside, Jack? All right. Oh, I got something else for you guys. This is a test. Oh my God, I am not ready for this. 1 second. Let me find this email because I'm very curious. Where is it? Here it is, here it is, here it is. Okay, so here's the deal, guys. I'm gonna, how does this work? All right. Like I said, this has nothing to do with reef keeping at all. But I recently had my alarm system updated, and they said if you want to give out your referral code, you can get $200 back. I was like, that's awesome. And they said, and the person using the referral code will get $200 off of theirs. And then the installer told me, and if the referral code gets used, then he gets money too. So everyone gets money if you happen to be wanting an alarm system from Vivint for your home security or business security, I guess. And it doesn't matter where you are in the U.S. So, because I asked, do they have to live near me? Because my fans are all over the place. And they're like, no. So I'm going to put out this code for you guys, and it's in the chat right now. I'll also stick it in the video's description. It's because they said there's like, this code's only good for like 10 days, which is weird. You'd think they'd keep it on forever. But if even one of you gets the Vivint alarm system installed in their home, I get $200 knocked off my upgrade, which would be nice because I spent money, and I wouldn't mind recouping a little bit of it. So if you're thinking about it, I'm very happy with it. There's an app. I actually use it all the time. And this sounds like, I mean, this is a true thing. This is not me. How do I do this? I am just telling you about an opportunity that they made me aware of. And, all these companies do that. You buy a car, they want you to refer someone else to buy a car. I mean, I get it. So I'm just putting it out there. But I use Vivint for my home security. And I actually use it to unlock my front door as I walk Jack every day. As I walk out, I hit a button, the door locks automatically. And then as I'm walking back to the house, I can open the app and tell the front door unlock. I love that. And then we just walk in, where it used to be Jack would stand next to me and I'm futzing around with my keys to unlock the door. So that's one thing. And now, because I've replaced my floors with porcelain tile instead of my ceramic tile, whenever I drop something on the floor that's made of glass and it shatters into a million pieces, Vivint tells me, glass break. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, I know. Now, if they'd invent a sweep up the mess, that would be an awesome module. I would totally get that. But yeah, sometimes that happens. But no, I've had no problems with them at all. I like the service, and there's sensors everywhere. There's cameras everywhere, and no one's stealing my stuff. And I love that. So I feel a little bit safer with it. And I was just thinking, oh my God, maybe someone will use this code. All right, that's it for that. What else can we talk about? How about if I just answer some of your questions? I'm just doing whatever I can to make a buck today, right? Let's see. Let me look at the questions here. Oh, I want to see at the end here how the volume's doing. Anyone else? Yeah, Steve says more quiet. So I just feel like if I keep turning it up, it's going to maybe start clipping. I don't know. I'll turn it up a little bit hotter. Now we're at 95%. It does look like it's lower on the bar too, but is it cleaner? Did it help get rid of some of the aquarium sound in the background? Or is it, is it just the volume went down, or is there some benefit? Because ideally, not wearing that thing on your shirt is nicer. Excuse me. Okay. Let's go back up here. I want to see these questions and answer some of these questions for you. Rick, did I ship you an order? How did I miss that? You should have made it say Macys Daddy as your first and last name. That would have helped. Okay, Jason gave me the biggest compliment ever for this new microphone, that I sound like me. Oh boy, Larry says, I only used the ICP test once, and I didn't know everything had to be scanned before I sent it, so they were able to locate my sample and provide the results. My parameters haven't fluctuated much since. Oh, that's good. Lucas says, I just tested my water. See, he's ahead of me. He's beat me to it. The nitrate is, 0.5. I think that's right. That's weird. That's really low. Okay. Phosphate, 0.07. That's good. Calcium is, alkaline 9.3. Magnesium is 1450. That's a little high. And calcium is 350. That's a little low. So I would drop off the magnesium, and I would definitely add some calcium. That calcium should be between 375 and 450. And if you take your 350 and times it times 3, that comes out to 1050. But your magnesium is 1450. So you see you're way out of balance between those two, and those two need to match for ionic balance. So yeah, stop doing magnesium for a while, add some more calcium, get that number up. If you can get your calcium to 450, that's 1350, and that's 1350, and your magnesium is 1450. So you see they're way closer that way. And 450 is okay to have. Andrea says, stripper! Yes, I was a stripper. I was a professional stripper. Now I'm a former professional stripper. Santana Reef says, it's time to break out the Crown. It's my birthday. Happy birthday! You know, I could drink Crown, but I'm kind of still sipping some coffee that's cooled off. I did do Crown a couple days ago, and I'll definitely raise a glass to you tonight. How about that? And Jason says, carpet hides dog hair. It does, but my Dyson vacuum finds it all. It's crazy. I told you guys I love vacuuming, and I definitely love vacuuming with that Dyson vacuum cleaner. Now listen, Dyson's really expensive, but I got it for free. My buddy AJ moved away, and he literally left everything behind, and he asked me to go clean out his apartment, you know, literally hire a service and clean it all out and get everything out so that way it wouldn't get repossessed by the apartment complex. And so a lot of stuff went in the dumpster. A lot of stuff got donated to charity. I filled up my truck with treasure I wanted. The people that were doing the cleaning grabbed treasure they wanted. I mean, we all won. It was fantastic. And he had an empty apartment so he wouldn't get yelled at from the complex. And it looked spotless. As a matter of fact, they made that place look like a brand new apartment, which I couldn't believe. You know, I mean, I was just blown away. The only thing they didn't fix was all the little tiny holes in the walls where pictures have been hanging. But it looked amazing. Anyway, I got that Dyson vacuum cleaner for free. And I use it to this day. And I don't know, I guess I do it every 2 weeks or so. And I cannot believe the ball of hair that it pulls out, because you don't see hair on the carpet. Like Jason says, it hides it. And this new carpet, it's going to do a great job of hiding it too. And that's fine. I am fine with that. I'm actually really excited to have new carpet again. I love new carpet. I love the smell. I love how it feels. I love rolling around on it. Some people want to roll around in money. I just want to roll around in carpet. Larry says, what lights are you using over your reef? A quick peek, maybe. Here you go. Take this off. Does the camera let you see it? Not quite. Let me adjust the height a little bit here for you for a moment. Do this. So what you're looking at are 3 Neptune Sky. I've been running these for almost 2 years. I think May is when I installed them, so almost 2 years. And then there's a couple of Reef Brights that just turn on automatically because I've always had them. And there's no reason not to run them. But when the skies are running at 100%, you cannot tell that the XHOs are on. That's how intense these lights can be. Now, right now, the lights are running in streaming mode because it's a profile I've created for it. And it makes the tank look very, very blah. But on camera, it looks pretty good. So that's why I created streaming mode. And then late at night, these lights change and there's a lot more blue in the tank and everything's glowing. It's all beautiful. And I run these lights at 80% for 3 hours a day. And the rest of the time, it's either ramping up or ramping down. So that is the tank right now. I'll leave it like that for now since you asked about it. Dave says, have you used multiple ICP tests at the same time to see if they compare? And do you correct trace limits if they're low from the ICP test? The first one, no. I was thinking about it and I was like, what am I trying? I'm not trying to prove who's lying, you know? I just didn't see the point. And the second thing is that if you had 5 ICPs go out to 5 companies and you got them all back around the same time, and you tested your tank yourself as well, so you had that number, then as you're doing all this, you're like, well, who's telling me the truth? Because are my kits good? Is Triton's test the right one? Is Reef Labs the right one? Who's the right one? Because I don't think they're all going to match. I just don't think it's plausible for whatever reason. So then it comes to the point of which one do I believe? And that's like having 5 wristwatches that you all set to the correct time at one point, and you just look at the clocks and they don't all match. And you're like, well, who's telling me the truth? You know, to the second. So no. And then am I correcting trace? Yes. I'm actually putting in trace elements that are lacking to bring them up because they're too low. And why are they too low? Well, I can tell because some corals aren't perfect. And my potassium is a big obvious one, and it's way easier for them to do a potassium test kit than it is for me. I love getting the official number from ICP. So that one's one I watch. The calcium, it's nice to hear what they have to say on that one. But like these trace elements I cannot possibly test for, like selenium, vanadium, cobalt, iron. You know, I don't have test kits for all those. So while there are some kits available, the ICP can do it for me, and I can put in the elements for a week or two, and I can send up another sample and see where I'm at, and I can see if I need to increase, decrease, stop entirely, and get it dialed in. From now on, we'll do the show with the blinding lights behind me. How about that? It actually doesn't look terrible on camera to me. I don't know how it looks to you guys. Of course, I feel like the Reef looks so much better when you've got the nice video running and I'm in front of a green screen, because then you can really see the corals nice and clean and it's sharp. Of course, it helps when the glass is super clean too, which I never finished cleaning it. Too lazy. Let me clean this. Get this film off of here. And I need a razor blade really badly, especially down near the bottom where I can't get to it, because there's corals all the way up the glass. Excuse me, Spock. Yeah, this tank is so ugly in person under this lighting scheme. Okay, next question. Oh, Mina owes us some pictures. Listen, he says, I took care of my tank maintenance yesterday. I'm officially off today. Tomorrow my cousins come over to help me set up the adaptive reef board. Now, I want some before and after, or I want some time lapse that shows the process of the conversion, because we want to see your fire hazard, your rat's nest with your little rats. I want that to completely just evaporate into a beautiful, smooth, gorgeous board covered with stuff, all the wires tucked away, zip-tied, Velcroed together, glued on the board. I'm looking forward to seeing the final. And I know you'll put it on TikTok, but you got to share it in Club Milo's Reef as well. Jason says that ATS, the algae turf scrubber, will strip your iron. Yes, it is. It also, as well as manganese, selenium, and vanadium. I am dosing Isolate MT. I've been dosing that straight for the last couple of weeks. And one of my numbers came up, so I know the MT is working. And the algae in the turf scrubber is looking better. It's starting to look greener, because for a while there, I just had like snot on the sheets again because my numbers are so off. So I'm glad I got that corrected. Rosano said, I mentioned my DKH was 5.5. I think I remember that, and I was freaking out. And he says, turns out the alkalinity line for the 2-part was clogged. So you see, there's always something you need to check and fix. Jason says, for my Montipore, I need more potassium. You're right. So here's my new bottle. I don't even know what I paid for this, because I just placed a big order. But this is the, compared to these bottles, right? Here is my molybdenum, and here's my potassium. And I'm reading the instructions on here, and it said 1 milliliter of this per 26.4 gallons increases potassium by 1 ppm. I was like, 1? I have to go up like 40. And so then the next line says 5 milliliters per 20 gallons will increase at 6.6. I was like, okay, so I did that math, and I think I came out to like 678 milliliters of this would be needed to get it to 400 ppm. And then it says, multiply your net water volume, 450, by the actual potassium, which the ICP said like 358, and you get a number. Then multiply your net water volume, 450, times your desired potassium, 400, and it came out to like, oh, whatever. And I had that number. And then you had to subtract the first number for the second one, and then divide it by 100. Lots of math. And they'll tell you need 750 milliliters. So my first math was pretty close when I came to 678, and then this one was like, I don't know, 725 or something. I was like, okay, 3/4 of a bottle. So what I'm probably going to do is set this thing up with its own dosing pump and let it put in like 100 milliliters a day for 7 days. And then my potassium should be where it should belong. But my tank needs a lot of potassium. Ever since I lost that potassium 2 years ago, it's been kind of hard to get it up there and keep it up there. Bot says, it's 1 drop per 26 gallons, how do you dose trace elements in a 6.5 gallon tank like I have? You really don't. I wouldn't even attempt it, but there are tricks. Like, for example, the little bottle of Cobalt, right? This one drop, what was it on here? Oh, this font is so small. I'm trying to remember. It was something crazy, like one drop treats like 2,700 gallons. That's why I started with one drop in 100 milliliters, and then I would dose 2 milliliters of the diluted solution into my tank. And at this point, I'm taking 4 drops of this in 100 milliliters, and I'm putting in 10 milliliters a day, and it's working. My cobalt's showing up on the tests. It's working. So when you're talking about like a small tank and you have something that's so concentrated, you got to dilute it down a whole bunch, and then you're adding some of that into your small tank. But with a small tank, you're just going to do a water change and resolve almost everything. Luca says, my cobalt bottle will last me 8 years and 2 months. I don't believe you. I think it's going to last me 20. Let's bet on it. Let's bet 20 bucks. Does that sound good? Dan says, I met Chris Meckley at Restock this year. He's an awesome guy for sure. I honestly believe in his methods and approach. Considering he's not just a hobbyist, but runs a successful business, he has a lot to lose. If, is there more to that sentence? If anything goes wrong. But yeah, no, not only is he so successful what he's growing out, when people come over, they cannot believe what the corals look like. They're just like, how are you doing this? And he points to these little bottles. And he makes mistakes too. He told me how he once put in, manganese. And he put in way too much manganese. You know, did some math wrong. And he said I think he said it was like 40 ppm manganese in his system, which obviously affected some corals. And I was like, how's that even possible? I have put in 4 bottles of manganese, and it always says not detected, with 16 ICP tests in a row. And he's like, I don't know, but I figured it out. I figured out how to use it to the point where it shows up on the test and shows up in abundance. Craziness. Bot says, is there a nano calcium reactor I can run on a 6.5 gallon? I'm curious. They do make little itty bitty ones, but man, 6.5 gallons, it's just not worth it. I mean, your tank probably would do just fine with like a dosing pump and all for Reef, because you're just going to need a little tiny bit of that once a day. And I'm going to assume the all for Reef would probably last you 12 months, you know, because it's just a little tiny bit. Plus, a calcium reactor lowers the pH, which you don't want to lower your pH in such a small body of water anyway. And just doing anything to 6.5 gallons can change it dramatically. It can really hurt it. So I would keep things as simple as possible. I mean, even my little 27 gallon, all it gets is water changes. I don't do anything special with it. Josh says, is it typical for a gold torch to only be open halfway whenever the heads are starting to split? It's done it once before and seems to be doing it again. You can see the mouth starting to split. Normally, I'm not a torch guy, okay? I'm a frog spawn, hammer, what else is left? I have the other ones. And they make a bubble. And the bubble then basically, when it pops or goes away, you have 2 heads in that spot. So I can't really answer that. Maybe Jason, who's here, he's big on torches. Maybe he'll have some advice for you on that one, or some opinions. So just watch in the chat. Jason, answer him, please. Let's see. Nice. Desert Elephant sent me some amazing pictures on Instagram of these crazy looking things that he calls Tusken Raider huts, like out of Star Wars. I mean, I saw it, and everything was like interwoven on the bottom of a sump in an area that he never touched. And it looks like something viral, like something in a sci-fi movie. And we've been trying to figure out what creature built these little houses and interwove them with tunnels that all connect. It's crazy looking. He posted pictures in Club Milo's Reef too. If you haven't seen it yet, go find it. It's totally worth looking at, because we're all scratching our heads right now trying to identify what on earth lives in there and how it's made this insane complex of homes in the bottom of the sump and going up the walls too. It's really weird looking. I mean, it's like 9 different sci-fi shows I've watched. and it's growing in his sump. So he said he tried to get a picture from beneath so we can see what's living inside. I want to also know if they have furniture. That would be so cool. Gus says, have you ever had a skin reaction after being in contact with corals? Sometimes. Sometimes I will get stung by stuff, but usually I don't. I'm not super sensitive like others are. Caitlin was super sensitive. You know, she'd be in the tank cleaning, and she'd have all these, like, it looked like fire ants had bit her all over her arm. And it was usually from the anemones. But for me, I mean, what are you talking about? Like rubbing against a hammer coral or a leather? What was it that you were in contact with? Zoanthids are risky too. Did you know? Jack, stop. Did you know that clownfish, when they rub against zoanthids a lot, they'll end up having black dots on their body? It's something that happens. But the clown just handles it. It doesn't hurt the clown, but the zooanthid palytoxin affects them that way and gives them little black dots. Hillbilly Reefer says, do you have any experience using Reef Flux to fight Bryopsis? And if so, any suggestions? I have used Reef Flux before. I was trying to get rid of Valonia, bubble algae. I don't have Bryopsis. I haven't had Bryopsis in forever. So I'm going to, I think you have to use double strength for Bryopsis. I think it's single strength for hair algae, double for Bryopsis, triple for Valonia. And it definitely will get rid of it. And you just leave the skimmer off. I feel like the instructions say keep the skimmer off for a couple of days, but for some reason I thought it had to be off for a whole week. And it's sort of like a 3-week process to get everything eradicated, but it totally works. My frag tank was packed with bubble algae, and I did the Reef Flux, or the other one I use, Flux RX from Blue Life, and that one just got rid of it. So it's a nice one to use. It does the job. It doesn't hurt any livestock, and you can resolve the problem. Your medic says, does the alarm have indoor and outdoor cameras? Yeah, they have everything. You can check out their website, vivint.com, and I'm using all external. I also have Ring. I have 2 different alarm systems because, not that I'm paranoid, I just wanted to try that out for the studio, and it's working really well out there as well. But I was telling him, I said, somebody's going to be watching this show on Saturday. I told the installer, I'm going to have somebody watch this show, and they're going to say, yeah, we want an alarm system on our reef. We want the reef to be safe. We want cameras from 4 angles. And the guy just started laughing. He didn't say no way, so I'm thinking he totally could do that. But it is really nice that I can go ahead and open things up and, open up an app and look at, and I've got 5 cameras now. So you want to see my shirt, Chris? Here you go. I got this shirt years ago as a gift when I was at Mac, and I did an interview with another channel, and my reward at the end was this shirt, which is definitely a little tight on me because of my fat belly. But I think we should recreate this shirt because it's very popular. And I'm thinking about contacting I'm a Reefer and seeing if he can go ahead and start making these to make them an option. Because you could never buy them. They were never for sale anywhere. They were part of whatever this says. Mountaincorals.org. And I don't know, it was just something they did to give away at the show. And I love wearing it. And the fabric is super soft too, which I love as well. So I really like this one. It's got the glowing fish under blue lights, which is nice. And at one point I was dating someone and she tried to steal it. She goes, no, it looks better on me. And it did. It did look better on her, but I got it back. Let's see. Larry says, thanks for showing off your lighting. I'm impressed. I may make the LED switch from metal halide T5 Reef Bright strip. Yeah, I mean, I had metal halide with the Reef Brights. And then when I replaced the metal halides with these sky fixtures, as soon as I turned on the tank and looked at it, my thought in my head, this is no lie, was I should have done this years ago, which I couldn't. They didn't exist years ago. The sky, I would literally open the first official box of the official packaging of how they'd be sold and did a video that was a super long 1-hour infomercial where I asked every question I could think of and got every question answered because no one had done a video about the sky fixtures yet. And so I tried to make it fun and entertaining, but it definitely was a commercial. And it just, you know, I put a ton of time in editing that too. But I wanted it to where anyone wanted to know about these lights, they'd get their information. Now, someone recently said to me, you know, or no, I posted a picture of this tank in the Neptune group and said, you know, I've been running the Sky for almost 2 years. And one of the first questions was, well, what intensity are you running it at? And that's when I said 80% for 3 hours a day. That's my high noon. And this one person wrote, finally, someone is giving us specific information. I feel like I do that all the time. But it's true. You don't see enough of that. If you see someone post a picture of their tank and they're using AI, or they're using Radeon, or they're using Sky, or they're using Kessel, or whatever it is they use, whatever schedule you've got plugged in, it's going to change throughout the day. In the morning, it's going to be low intensity. Late at night, it's going to be low intensity. There might even be moonlight after lights out, right? But there's parts of the day when you're kind of going full tilt. And the question is, how long is that? And how intense is that? That's a good one to know. And it's also good to know PAR. So I have a new PAR meter that I got last year. I'm going to be testing the PAR in this tank. The lights, like I said, are coming up on 2 years old. And I want to measure where I can put a meter. Now, I can't put it everywhere because there's corals in the way. But I'll do the best I can to get some measurements under these lights and see where they are. And we'll discuss the PAR reading on this channel in a future live stream, because I think it's a good thing to do at least once a year to see where you're at and to see what corals are getting what. So you could say, oh, that blue tort would look so much better if it was getting 600 PAR. And I tell you it's getting 330, you know. Not that I can necessarily go all the way to 600, but I at least would have the knowledge, oh, maybe I need more PAR in that area. Maybe I need to run my lights at 90% for 1 hour, 80% for a couple more hours, and then, you know, the lesser for the day, just to get a little more pop out of that coral. It's possible. But without the reading, there's no way of knowing. So I like to do that kind of work, and I just haven't pulled it out yet to get my measurements in a while. Okay. Lucas says, yeah, my nitrates are 0.5. 0.5 of APPM. And he says they're super low because I dose live phyto together with a refugium, a skimmer, a 10% water change weekly. Yeah, that's a 40% change per month. How bad is your tank you need so much water change? Corals are healthy and have amazing color and growth. All right, fine, I'll be quiet. You can dose nitrate. You can actually use the Brightwell Neo Nitro, and I sell it in my shop. Josh says, now we're going to be comparing all of our alarm systems. Blink has a really good deal on security cameras, both indoor and outdoor. I like it very much, and more than the Ring, and it was cheaper, but that could have been a sale or something. I have a Wise camera right here. See, that's another thing I use, pointed at Caitlin's reef, and I can see through her reef to see the 400 gallons, so I've got that option. But I don't really have a need for more cameras in this inside the house for me. If I was... I'm almost positive that Vivint is offering things like nanny cams. So there is definitely indoor cameras for sure. I just don't have them myself. I'm all about outside. I want to know who came through my gate, who came through my door, who was in my backyard, you know, that kind of stuff. Oh, thank you, Andrea. She even put the link up there for y'all. Neo Nitro. Okay. So, yeah. I think we should kind of wrap up. I think we should wrap up with our spiel that it is Water Test Saturday. Please do test all your parameters. I know I talked a lot about parameters at the beginning of this video. So now is the part where we say we're going to double check our numbers. I mean, yes, I just got a report telling me what my water was 4 days ago. I don't know what it is today. So I have a Trident that will give me some numbers, and it gives me some other graphs like pH and temperature, which is nice. But I also get out my test kit because I want to know where the nitrate are. I want to know where the phosphate is. I want to see what's going on with the tank. I got to dose all my little bottles. I'll show you guys I'll put it in the chat here so you can see it. what I'm going to dose today. Or I'll read it off too, because someone might be driving their car. Daily dosing March. So this is what's going in my tank. Where's my chat? Right here. Oh, it didn't make it nice and clean. Anyway, I'll just read it off to you. Today I'll be putting in 9 drops of the Isolate MT, which is one of these little tiny bottles. I'll be putting in 18 drops of vanadium, 18 drops of selenium, 10 milliliters of cobalt, 10 milliliters of iron, 20 milliliters of calcium carbonate, and 50 milliliters of manganese, and 112 milliliters of potassium. So that is what's going to go in my system today. And I'll probably be following that exact recipe for the next 7 days. So if you're like, if you want to do something fun and different than just water changes, you can copy me. If you just want to do water changes, you can do that too. But you definitely want to know what all your numbers are. And listen, like my mistake I mentioned earlier where I didn't quite make sure everything was running operationally correct with the calcium reactor, had I not looked at my graph and seen that my alkalinity was dropping, if I had missed the notification on my phone that said alkalinity is below 7.8, you know, my tank would then slowly implode and I'd be like, what's happening? But because I have the automated gear, it does give me a leg up on staying ahead of things before it gets too far. And I literally change those warnings all the time. So like right now, my alkalinity low level, my threshold, I think is 7.9 is my low point. I can change that now to 8.5 now that the tank is at 9.4. So I can say if it gets below 8.5, send me a notification so I can catch it sooner and not let it dwindle down quite as far as it did. And also, if for some reason I had too much alkalinity in the tank, you know, just something went wrong the other direction, I have an upper limit to send me a notification and say your alkalinity is 10. And so then I can either put up with the alarm every hour on the hour, because I can't really change that number. All I can do is watch it dissipate. I can stop adding alkalinity briefly, but I can tell the alarm to change it to tell me a notification at 10.5. And so I'll make the adjustment, I hit upload, and then I'm not being pestered with a nuisance alarm system, but I am aware of the situation and I can handle it. But if I wasn't being notified of these things, and if I was only relying on my weekly testing of alkalinity on Saturday to Saturday, like I told you, on Monday it was dropping down to below 8. By Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I mean, my tank drops like not 2 DKH. No, maybe, I think it can drop 2 DKH in one day with no calcium, you know, with no calcium reactor running. It's a significant, there's a lot of coral growing in there. So I have to be on top of it. And so I have some automation in place and I love it. And it may not be for everyone, but I think that once you start to use some reef automation, you start saying, oh, this is nice. Now, that does mean, and I'm not going to, you know, sugarcoat this, there are more things that can break. You have more components, more things that can fail, more things to keep track of. And that can be a little bit of a beating. But at the same time, I feel like it's totally worth it. I love that I could be somewhere and I can check on my tank really quickly. I can check some cameras really quickly. And I can text someone if things are really wrong while I'm gone. But while I'm home, I can just double check things, get on with my life, make an adjustment, and keep going. And so like even when my calcium reactor was messing up briefly, I just mixed up some soda ash with a solo cup that went up there in the top with RO water. And I put in 2 tablespoons because 2 tablespoons is the exact amount of alkalinity my tank needs per day. It's great. So I mixed that up. I poured it in while I fixed the calcium reactor. The next day it should have been fine, but it wasn't. So I mixed another cup, let it trickle in, fixed calcium reactors, other issue, and ever since I haven't had to do it. But it's just a real nice way to do something because I'm being informed of what's going on and I can step in and handle it before it gets away from me and I'm just looking at a tank of death. And, you know, that's the goal. You want to have a nice, pretty reef day after day after day with no problems. And the more you test, the better. That's my spiel. I realize the more I talk about numbers, the more I feel like I might be saying things that feel like I'm saying you're chasing numbers. But we definitely do want to test our water. We want to make sure that we are getting the right readings from our test kits, and that we are making adjustments with our dosers, our reactors, our all for reef, whatever you're using to make the corrections, keep everything within the right ionically balanced water. If you are shooting for really crazy high numbers outside of the norm, your tank will not necessarily respond well to it, because something is not going to tolerate your wild number. So for example, I was talking to someone recently, I think it was Chris, and he tends to keep his tank's alkalinity around 6 or something. And lately he's been losing LPS corals. And I was like, why is it so low? And he said, my tank's happy at that level. I was like, no, there's no way your tank is happy at that level. It's too low. And he said, no, it is. And if I dose anything else, my pH is going to get too high. I said, well, I don't believe your pH number at all. Get your alkalinity where it needs to be. Because he was saying his tank is like at night hitting 8.5. And I'm thinking, with an alkalinity of 6? I don't think so. So anyway, that's me arguing with someone on the internet. But you know, Chris can handle it. I just feel like we need to make sure our numbers are within the right range that Randy Holmes Farley taught us 20 years ago. And he was saying alkaline between 8 and 11. Pick a number in there. My goal is 9. I want 9 DKH all the time. Calcium between 375 and 450. So 400 all the time. Potassium 400 all the time. My pH tends to be 8.0 to 8.2 every day, so I'm not really worrying about that. That's a good range. My temperature tends to be 1 degree difference each day. It's between 76 and 77 degrees. And my magnesium tends to be 1400 all the time. That's actually a little higher than it needs to be. The magnesium in the ocean is 1280. So 1300 was the normal number, but I find that corals do better with higher magnesium, and so I've been doing 1400, and I haven't seen any adverse effect. But there's people out there that want 1500 ppm of magnesium, and I don't know why. It sounds too high. It sounds too far out of range. So if you can get all your sweet spots, that would be ideal. And then phosphate, anything under 0.1 would be good. My tank, as of the last test, was 0.2. So it's a little bit up. It could come down a little bit more. Phosphate RX could handle that, and that'll be the end of it. In my next test, I'll look like a golden boy to those people. I'll have one number right. But so that's it. You know, if you just get those good numbers and keep them all within the right desired range, and don't try to do anything weird, your corals should do really, really well. Your fish should be healthy and happy, and you can feel like you can feed your tank and not worry about stressing out about stuff. Guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and if you have any questions, you can find me online everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, my website, and you know, I'm always just an email or a message away. Bye, guys.